Good afternoon to you lovely real entrepreneurs, and happy Friday to you all. How are you doing? I'm sending lots and lots of sunshine your way on this beautiful day. I hear you've been having some beautiful weather in the UK. Let me know where you are joining from. Lots of lovely sunshine here in Dubai. I hope that you have had a great week, and wishing you a very happy Friday and a very happy World Book Day. Now, some people have got in touch and said, haven't we already had a World Book Day? Well, apparently there's more than one, so I'm choosing today to be World Book Day. Apparently there is more than one. So, how are you doing? Just going to wait for a few more people to join. Greetings, and happy Friday to you. Where in the world are you? Do give me a wave. Let me know where you are. How is your family? How's your business? How's your team? Say hello if you are joining. Let me know where you are joining from. I hope that you are very well. Happy Friday to you, MJ. Hello. Are you out in your garden? Are you having a beautiful Friday, sunny summer's afternoon, or not summer's afternoon, but spring afternoon? MJ's been very busy in her garden. So greetings to you, MJ, and greetings to, did I see Paul there, and Jennifer? Hello to you. Thank you for joining. Hope you are doing well. Let me know how things are wherever you are. So how has this week been for you then? So MJ's saying Coulsdon Garden, backbreaking. Yeah. I love your pictures, by the way, MJ. I absolutely love the pictures that you share. So MJ is a very avid gardener, and sometimes she posts pictures of like the top half really all fancy schmancy, like ready for a Zoom call, and the bottom half in kind of muddy Wellington boots. Love it. Hello to you all. Thank you for joining. Happy Friday and happy World Book Day. How about that? How has this week been for you then? I know in the UK, coming out of lockdown and also having some great weather. Let me know how the weather is where you are. I hope you're having lots of lovely sunshine. If you're not, then I'll send some your way here in Dubai. It's very lovely and warm and sunny. Let me know what you've been working on this week. Has it been a good one? All good here. I think I might have told you that I bid for a piece of work with an automotive accelerator. They're called TDAP. And I found out a few days ago that I've won that piece of work. So that is really thrilling. I'm going to be doing some workshops and also some individual coaching. So that is brilliant. And the next round of people management training starting next week as well. So you know, I run 6 workshops on people management training, and I run those 2 or 3 times a year. So we're starting with the next round of those next week as well. So yeah, busy times, but really good. So thank you to all of you that have been referring friends and colleagues to me. We've got a really good waiting list system, which is working really well. Sometimes I can take people on straight away, and some people, sometimes they have to go on the waiting list and wait a little bit of time. I only work with a certain number of people, as you might imagine, to make sure that you get all of the attention and love that you need from me. So lots of new joiners also to this community. Welcome to each and every one of you. I hope that you enjoy these weekly lives. I'm really passionate about serving you and giving you lots of great value. I really want you to know that you are not alone. So please feel free to post your challenges and your questions into this group. My team does review all of the posts to stop those few people that just like to be lazy and simply share a post, a link to their page, or blatantly try and sell. That's not what we're doing here. We are talking about our challenges. We're talking about our businesses, what's going on in our businesses, not trying to sell our businesses. There's plenty of places you can sell your business. This is not the place. So we've also been having weekly Ask Me Anything sessions in this group every Monday at 3 p.m. UK time. You'll see those popping up. I'm in the group at that time. I'm not on video, but I am answering your questions. We had a good chat last week about time management. Hey, Donald. and also how to start and end in a positive way. Either pop your questions into the group in advance or join me at 3 p.m. on Monday to get them answered live. So Henrik is asking me if I dropped off. I don't think I dropped off. I think I'm still going live. MJ, can you still see me and hear me? Paul, Jennifer? Do let me know. Maybe it's at your end, Henrik. I'm hoping it is. I think I'm still here, so I'm going to keep talking. But maybe you could let me know if you can still hear me. Otherwise, maybe I'm talking to myself, which is kind of okay, but not much value for you lovely people. So let me know, how are you doing this week? It seems like it's a very, very busy time for everybody. I hope that you and your business are really thriving. Do you know what? If you're not, then that's okay as well. Please let us know what support you need. You are not alone. So last week we were looking at niching, and I was sharing my thoughts with you on whether you need a niche or not. And if you decide that you need a niche, then my 3 steps to finding a niche that works for you. And if you've got any questions around niching, it's quite an interesting topic. I would encourage you to check out that video. If you didn't get a chance to watch me live last week, then you'll find a recording of all of the lives in this group, and they're all organised into guides. We have an entry guide, if you like, a welcome guide that has lots of kind of welcoming information about the group and information about me. But then the 3 main guides where you'll find all the lives and all the resources are the Simplify, Grow and Enjoy Your Business. So if you are feeling overwhelmed or you're feeling stretched too thin, not quite sure what to focus on or how to get yourself organised, then definitely check out the Simplify Your Business guide. Then there's a Grow Your Business guide, which is all about client acquisition. It's all about selling. It's all about scaling. It's all about managing people. So if that's what you are tackling right now, then that's definitely the place for you to find support. And finally, then there's the Grow Your Business guide, which is focusing on you and your role and how to ensure that the business you're building continues to delight and inspire you. What we really don't want is you falling out of love with your business. So Henrik, I think maybe you are having some technological issues again. I hope that it's not at my end. The feed seems to be fine from my end, but hopefully, well, maybe on the replay it will be better. I don't know. Let's see. I'm going to persevere and hope you get your connection sorted. I think it's probably at your end. So as you know, I do tend to take my cues from you, from your questions, from your comments, etc., in terms of what will be helpful for me to cover during these lives. So do keep letting me know where you're stuck, what you need help with, what questions you have. So today is World Book Day, very exciting day. Many of us dream of writing a book. It's on lots of people's bucket lists, if you like. Maybe you want to inspire other people. Maybe you want to tell your story. Maybe you want to attract business. Maybe you want to change the world. But some of the questions you might have about writing a book, you know, what should you consider and how do you really go about writing your book? And what do you write about and how do you get it ready for publishing? I published my first book in 2018, The Real Entrepreneur, and I am busy writing my second book. I made lots and lots of mistakes when I was writing my first book, and this time I'm actively learning from them and trying to do a much better job this time. So I'd like to share with you the process, but also share some of those lessons with you. I really believe that each and every one of you have a book in you. So this live today is all about you and your book and how you write your book. Whatever your reasons are for wanting to write a book, you know, whether it's to support your business because you have a burning desire to get your point of view out there, or purely, do you know what, just for the pleasure of writing and being an author. Today's live is very much designed to give you some things to think about, but also some actions that you can take today. So I'm going to divide today's live up into 5 sections, 5 steps, if you like. So firstly, why write a book? then what to write about, then we're going to talk about the actual writing, then we're going to talk about the editing, and finally we'll talk about the publishing. So hopefully that works for you. Do let me know if you have any questions as I go through. So firstly, what we're going to start with then is why would you write a book? Why do you want to write a book? I really believe that everybody has got a book in them. I absolutely loved books and reading as a child. I didn't just read them, I kind of consumed them. My mum told me that before I even learnt to read, she could easily have had a full-time storyteller on hand, and it still wouldn't have been enough for me. I always assumed that one day I would write a book, but I never thought that it would be a business book. We all have a story to tell, and there are many, many benefits to sharing your story. When we communicate, other people learn, but also we learn in that process of communicating. By reflecting on our own experiences, we're much more likely to spot those patterns that we were talking about a few weeks ago, and learn from those patterns and what we're observing. When we share our story, it allows other people to connect with us in a much more meaningful way. Business is all about people, of course. It's about solving problems, and it's about building a team, and ultimately it's about making money. But ultimately it really does come down to people. You and your client, you and your team, you and your investors, your suppliers, your partners. So good communication is really key to fostering those relationships that are built on trust. As human beings, we're all creatures of emotion, and one of the ways that we understand and that we learn is through stories. And since the beginning of human history, storytelling has really allowed us to make sense of the world that we live in and find deeper meaning in our lives. We tell stories all the time, right? We tell them to persuade, to explain, to inspire. Rational things like facts and figures don't really stick in our minds nearly as long as those stories where we feel that we have an emotional connection with what we're listening to or reading. So that's all great, right? That's all great, and that probably makes sense to you, but we're a business community here, right? What's that really got to do with writing a book? Why are we even talking about writing a book in a group for business owners? So even though we are all moving more and more online, people's appetite for books is still increasing. It might not be a paperback book for many of you, many of us. Kindle and Audible are continuing to grow, but learning is really something that most humans really need and therefore continue to seek out. And there's nothing like a book to give you credibility in the eyes of your potential clients, to position you as an expert in your field. Don't forget that more and more we all like to check people out before we even make contact. So before you even know that they exist, your potential clients are checking you out. And what better way to get to know you and your expertise and your way of looking at the world than a book? Many of you actually joined this community because of my book. So what could you share with your community, with your potential clients? That leads us nicely on to step 2, which is what do you write about? Now, this is a tricky one. Do you write for you or do you write for other people? I don't really believe that there's a right or a wrong answer here, but you do need to decide, and you do need to decide up front. When I started my first book, I wrote loads and loads and loads about my own experiences, thousands and thousands of words. And then I had to have a bit of a word with myself about the fact that nobody really truthfully would actually care that much about all of that stuff if I didn't have something meaningful to say that related to them. So it's really important to really figure this out up front. I spent a lot of time thinking that I was writing for other people when actually, if I'm being honest, I was writing for myself. I still have all of those thousands of words, and maybe one day I'll publish it. But I was really clear that that first book, that I wanted to write it for other people, that I wanted to write it for small business owners. If you write for yourself, then of course you can write whatever you like. But if you're writing for others, then you really do need to think about what they are going to find useful. Now, there are probably loads and loads of different topics that you could choose from. And I know I saw a few comments on my post midweek, and people were saying, oh, I've got so many different ideas. And I know that is a common problem. So I have 3 suggestions here that will help you choose. So, firstly, think about the questions that people ask you. What do people come to you for? What do they talk to you about? What do they ask you? What would your potential clients be interested in reading about? Next, what would you like to write about? What would you be interested in talking about? It can be a bit of a slog, I'm not going to lie, so it has to be something that you're passionate about, that you're really interested in. And also, what could you position yourself as an expert in? And I will come back to that point. What do other people see you as an expert in? And thirdly, anytime you get overwhelmed, which will happen, certainly happened to me, or you find yourself broadening the scope of your book too far, which also happened to me very often, tell yourself that there's always a book 2 or a book 3. I've got loads and loads of notes that I used to park for a book 2 or a book 3. So they are my kind of top tips for narrowing down your topic. Say to yourself, ask yourself, what do you want to write about first, right? Don't try and get everything into one book. Okay, so then when you've decided what to write about, now it's time to put pen to paper or fingers to keyboard. But first, before we move on, what research are you going to do, and if any, and you don't have to, but do you want to do some research? And also, do you want to interview people? I decided last time that I was going to interview people, and I'm going to do so again this time. I think it's really great to hear, I found it really useful to hear how other people kind of viewed what I was writing about. And also, and this is just my opinion, I think it makes it a much more interesting book to have other people's perspectives, and you can use quotes, etc. I think that's much more interesting than just one person's perspective. That's my opinion. And so I think I would go so far as to say, well, maybe I won't say every book I write will have interviews, but certainly this next one's going to have interviews in. Okay, so now we move on to step 3. And step 3 is the actual writing. Okay, so when I started my first book, I was very clearly told that first I needed to decide on the structure. It was repeated to me on many occasions. It was drummed into me, but however much I tried, I really did find it very hard. And I told you I was going to be honest with you and share with you some of my learnings from my first book. And I still actually find it really ironic that I am a structure person, and I actually find it really easy to help all of you get structured and get organised. But oh my God, I found that actually the biggest challenge. I had so much inside of me that I had to get out. I mean, I spent the first couple of days, I think I spent 8, 9, 10 hours those first couple of days. I just had so much that I wanted to get out onto the paper, if you like, onto the page. I ended up writing, and this is no joke, 40,000 words over just a few days, most of which I did not end up using, but I still have. The problem with that, and you might think, oh wow, that's amazing, that's fantastic. And in a way it is, right? A lot of people struggle with the actual writing. I don't. That was not my challenge. And 40,000 words then with no structure was just a monster that then I felt like I spent months and months just trying to wrestle it to the ground. So here's what I was told to do last time, and what I am doing this time around. Firstly, make a list of topics that you could write a decent blog post, a decent length blog post on, say 1,000 words. So make a list of those topics. You think, yeah, I could write about that, and I could write about that. So make a list of those topics. Then think about how you would illustrate those topics. And there's kind of two ways you can illustrate them. Firstly, you can think about like personal stories from your own experience. You do want some personal stuff in there, you just don't want too much. I think you don't want too much in a business book, especially not the first one. That was my view. So personal stories, case studies of work that you've done, of people that you've interviewed, anecdotes, quotes from your interviews, if you've decided to do them, of course. So this is one way that you can illustrate your topics, by using examples, by using personal stories or experience, using client stories with permission, interview, etc., anecdotes, things that you've read about, etc. And then the other way that you can think about illustrating each of your topics, and I suggest that you do both and kind of intermingle both of these, is think about your top tips. You know, I like to share like my 5 steps or whatever. Think about your top tips. People really relate to those, and it makes your content much more accessible. Any stats or research if you've done research, and then any tools you can use to enhance the point that you're making. So my book, I try to make it very practical by adding in kind of really practical tools and step-by-step things that you can go through to make it quite accessible. So I was advised to use cards, so you know, just those little, I don't know what they're called, those little cards, and one colour for the topics, so write the topics on one colour of cards, then another colour for all the stories, anecdotes, interview quotes, etc., and then a third colour for the stats and the research and the tools. And that's quite a nice way to organise it, and that's certainly what I did with my first book. Then you group the cards together, so one topic with its various illustrations, or seasoning as my publisher used to call it, or still does call it, I believe, and that together, that makes a chapter. And in terms of the flow of your book, you really want to think about 3 main parts of your book, even if you don't end up having 3 sections in your book. When you structure your book, you want to think about it in 3 main parts, which should be roughly the same length, around 10,000 words, plus then you have a much shorter introduction and conclusion, and then all the other flowery bits around it. So part 1 is where you really introduce your topic. You give your readers some theory, some principles. If you've got research, this is where you would put this in. So you kind of really give them the kind of the foundations, if you like, of your book. Then part 2 is where you really share the meat. That's where you put the flesh on the bones, if you like. This is where you would use your model. So in my book, The Real Entrepreneur, real is actually a model: resilience, energy, accountability, and leadership. So this is where you would look at your model. And then part 3 is where you talk about implementation. So this is how I was advised to write my book, and this is how I am writing my second book. This is not how I actually wrote my first book. In terms of how to write, the advice I think that I was given, and what most people find works for them, is to write a little bit every day. So set aside some time to write every day, and that works for most people in my experience, but it doesn't work for me. And so I didn't do that last time, and I'm not doing that this time. I write whenever I feel like writing, when I feel like I've got headspace, and when I feel inspired to write. We were also told to be systematic about it, so write a topic and its seasoning and then move on to the next. And that makes perfect sense to me, but also doesn't work for me at all. I just ask myself, what would you like to write about today? And I take it from there, which is not what we were advised to do, but that is how I wrote the first one, and this is how I'm going to write the second one. However, and if you take just one thing away from this live, this is the thing. This approach, this kind of, oh yes, I'll go with the flow and write whatever I feel like, which is my way of writing, only works if you have a structure, which I did not have last time. And I cannot tell you how painful it was. So please, please, please listen to me and learn from my experience. So I have learned my lesson from last time. I have decided on my topics, I have decided on my seasoning, and I have decided on the flow of the 3 parts. I did use cards last time, and I know that a lot of people find that a great way to put everything together. But this time I just did it straight in Excel, in an Excel spreadsheet. I know, I'm a geek. You can also use software to map it all out. I used Scrivener last time, which was great, and I quite enjoyed it, but I don't feel like I need it this time. What I've done this time is created, so I created that in Excel. That's effectively like my structure, and then, really important, I created a skeleton book in Word right from the start. Before I wrote a single word, I created a skeleton in Word with a table of contents that links through to your content. If you don't know how to do that, please let me know. Do that before you start writing at all. So it's all the different levels, and it all then links back up to your table of contents. Do that at the beginning. That is what I didn't do last time, and it is essential. Especially if you are very creative like me and you like to write a little bit of that and a little bit of that, a little bit of this and a little bit of that, like I do. So now I have my structure. I can allow myself to write whatever I feel like, as long as it fits somewhere in my structure. If it doesn't fit in my structure, I put it to one side for book number 3. The advice is really not to edit as you go, but if you can't help tweaking like me, then it is vital that everything keeps tying back to your table of contents and you can refresh it and you've got that structure. I also like to have a plan to hold myself accountable. So in my Excel spreadsheet, I have a second tab that was a plan, and I mapped out all the way back. I want to publish in September, so what does that mean? In terms of timelines, that means I'm aiming to have a first draft written, a very rough first draft written, by the end of May so that I can edit during June. So that's my plan, and I'm tracking towards that. Now, I want to tackle something that I found really hard during this process, and I kind of want to just put it out there so that you are ready for this. A lot of people struggle with the actual writing, as I was saying, and if that's you, then maybe setting a daily target in terms of time or words might work for you. But as I said, that wasn't really the struggle for me. That wasn't the bit that I found difficult. What I found really hard was doesn't everybody know this stuff already? Who am I to call myself an expert? I felt like what I was writing was really very blah, 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 and that was a real challenge for me. It really is important to just push through that. Write down what you know to be true. Don't make it complicated. Instead, make it really simple, straightforward, and easy to understand. We make things complicated because it makes us feel, I don't know, more intelligent or more of an expert. But actually, what your readers need is for you to make your topic really simple. And if you think that everybody already knows this stuff, it just isn't true. And there are so many examples of that. The amazing thing is that we all have a slightly different way of looking at the world. The differences may be subtle, but they're there. Nobody has exactly the same life experience as you. Nobody sees things exactly as you do. And so your perspective is interesting and it's unique. People are hungry for knowledge, and so if you can make something simple, something that you understand and you care about, people will read it, and some of them will really connect with it, and that is what you want. Every time you feel that self-doubt coming in, and maybe it won't for you, but it really did for me, and I'm being honest with you here. Think about just one person whose life you might change, one person who somehow, and we don't quite know why or how, doesn't know all of these things, doesn't have access, or hasn't found all that material that you think is out there and everybody knows this, or they can just Google it. What about that one person that picks up your book and it makes a difference? It makes a difference in their business, in their life, in their relationship. Write it for that one person, because do you know what? I don't know about you, but if you can change just one person's life and make it better, then that's worth it, right? So, once you've got a very rough draft, around 30 to 40,000 words is usually recommended. Then it's time to move on to step 4. So step 4 is the editing. And if I hadn't already had enough trouble up until this point, this is where I got really stuck. I had all of this stuff, 40,000 words. I think I tried printing it out. It was like hundreds of pages. I tried so many different things. It really wasn't structured, and I really felt like it was a wild animal that I was trying to tame, and it really was a challenge. I finally kind of got it into some sort of a shape that I thought was kind of okay, and then I made myself send it out to my beta readers. Beta readers are really important, really important. You've got to get some objective perspective, really, really important. So what I did is I asked a combination of people that I know really well and trusted to be honest with me, and also some members of my target market, so some potential customers, if you like, some potential clients, i.e. in my case, small business owners. I am so grateful and will be eternally grateful to the people who were brave enough to give it to me straight. My book, in its first draft, was not very good at all. The feedback was, I am happy to say, actually, I'm grateful, it was brutal, but it was absolutely fair. I was trying to communicate with busy, overwhelmed business owners, but I really wasn't helping them quickly find the help that they needed. And that essentially was the feedback that I got. So I retreated to lick my wounds, and I had a good long look in the mirror, and I realised that I had been quite arrogant about the whole process. I was good at writing essays at school and at university, and to be honest, I think that I thought it was just a bigger version of, writing a blog post or writing an essay, and boy, was I wrong. So I took a step back, and essentially I started from scratch. So what I mean by that is I opened up a brand new Word document. I made myself a proper structure with a proper table of contents, and I put that up on my screen. And next, I opened up my manuscript, those 40,000 unwieldy words, and I simply started cutting and pasting pieces into my new structure. It took me a long time. It took me several full, long days. But it was really worth it. And at last, I kind of had something that I could get my brain around, and I could really start refining it and editing it. But during that process, I, again, really struggled with self-doubt. I am a perfectionist, and I really, I really found it challenging, this thought of just the permanence, of having a book out there with my name on it. I really did struggle with that. It took me ages before I could bring myself to send the final manuscript to my publisher for their edits, and then even longer before I was ready to finally sign off on it going to print. Even when that first box of books arrived, I put it under my desk and I did not open it for several days. So I always say to people, it took me a few weeks to write the book, and then 2 years to tame it and edit it and get it into a state where I was prepared to put it out into the world. So step 5 is, of course, publishing, and I'm not going to say too much about this at this point in time, but I'm happy to answer any of your questions when you get to that point. There are kind of 3 different routes you can go with publishing. You can go the traditional route, which involves a publisher giving you an advance and effectively commissioning you to write your book. You can self-publish, of course, or you can go down the middle route, which is what I did, which is called hybrid publishing. And if you'd like to know more, I'm very happy to do a separate live on that. And in fact, my publisher has even offered to come and do a live with me in this community and answer all of your questions. So do let me know if that would be of interest, if you'd like to, if you've got some specific publishing questions, or actually any questions about all of this. I mean, I've told you about my experience, but she is much, much more experienced than me. She's published many, many hundreds of books, and some of her own as well as lots of other people's books. So they are the 5 steps to writing your book. So why write a book, then what to write about, the actual writing process, then a bit about editing, and a bit about publishing. So do let me know your comments and questions. Do you have a book in you? I think that you do. Let's see what MJ is saying. Would like to know how to create the skeleton book in Word. Yeah, okay, well, let's get on to that, MJ. I now have a title. Oh my God, that's really exciting. What else are you saying? My challenge is not being controversial. How do others do it? My first book, I had to employ a lawyer. So my question to you is, why do you not want to be controversial? I, without knowing too much context, I actually think that's a mistake, MJ. I think you do, I mean, you don't want to be controversial for the sake of being controversial, but you want to have a point of view, yeah? You're not trying to appeal to everybody. You don't want everybody to agree with you. What you want to do is to find those people and write something for those people that do have the same views as you. So I don't actually see, I see being controversial as actually a positive thing, both in your book but also in your social media. As I say, not controversial just for the sake of being controversial, but yeah, being controversial because you're taking a point of view. Absolutely, I would definitely say do that. So let me know what your next step is in your life, in your business, in the writing of your book. How very exciting. Before I close up for today, I do want to give you some next steps, some concrete things that I suggest you do as a result of today's live. So firstly, jot down all of your ideas and ask yourself, who are you writing for? Next, very important, work on a structure, and please let me know if you'd like some help with that. Please, 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 please don't start writing until you have a structure. The structure can change, I promise you, but you must have a structure to slot everything into. And thirdly, you know what's coming, take some action, get writing. If you start now, we can even write together. I am writing now, right now, I have already started, so let's get cracking. Please do let me know how you get on with this, and do let me know if you need any support. I am going to close off today's live with 2 quotes about writing a book. So the first one is from Toni Morrison. She is an American novelist. If there's a book that you want to read, but it hasn't been written yet, then you must write it. And second is from another American novelist and also screenwriter, Truman Capote. Finishing a book is just like you took a child out in the backyard and shot it. I can relate, I have to say. What I would say about my book is that it is one of the hardest things that I ever did. But every week, still 2 years later, every single week, I get at least one message from somebody saying thank you. Thank you for writing that book. Thank you for including some tiny little thing that really resonated with me. Thank you for writing that book that you thought was all blah, 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 and everybody knows this stuff already. Thank you for writing that book. And do you know what? That just makes it all worth it. For me, that is an absolute joy. As I say, the thing that I used to say to myself is, what if just one person finds this helpful? And now every week, at least one message I get every week. So decide what is really important to you and stick to it. Building a business is tough, writing a book is tough, it can be a long, hard road, so make sure that you're building, make sure that you're writing something that is meaningful to you, that will sustain you through the tough times. Be intentional, say no to things that don't serve you and the goal that you want to achieve. So MJ is talking about threatening to be sued, and the publisher pulled out. Yeah, I mean, I think that's an interesting point, MJ. What I would say, so hybrid publishing, you are effectively in charge of that as well. So it's not it's not so much about the publisher being pulled out. And I think if you are giving your point of view, then you will not be sued. Don't think you can be sued for presenting something as a point of view. If you're presenting something as a fact, then you can be sued. But I would look at what you're writing. Maybe we could have an offline conversation, but I would look at what you're writing and say, how can I frame that as my opinion? And then you can say, well, some people might be offended by this, but this is my opinion, or this is my experience, yeah? So as I pass over to you, all of you that are watching either now live or later on replay, that is really what I want you to take from today. What is the outcome that you seek? Why are you writing? Who are you writing for? Are you writing for yourself? Are you writing for other people? What is the result that you want? What is your goal here? Put your energy into getting really clear about that, but really allow yourself to do things your way. Be controversial, have a point of view, frame things up as your opinion, your perspective, and say what be authentic, be yourself, speak your truth. By all means, learn from me, from other people, of course, but what kind of comes out from all of that learning really has to work for you. It has to be congruent with you and who you are. If you want to build something big, this is what I always say, right? If you want to build a huge, big business, and if you want to write loads of books and you want to put yourself out there, then great. But if you just want to do your thing and write a book for you, then that is absolutely okay, of course, as well. Focus on listening to yourself and asking yourself what you need so that you can spend more time in your flow. So do let me know your thoughts and your questions on this or any other topic relating to how to simplify, grow, and enjoy your business. If you haven't already claimed your free copy of my first book, The Real Entrepreneur, you can go to therealentrepreneurbook.com. You can also find an Audible or Kindle version on Amazon if you prefer those formats. And if you'd like to write along with me, then do get in touch. As I say, I am busy writing as we speak, so if you'd like some accountability or if you'd like some help along the way, then do get in touch. I really hope that you have a lovely weekend, whatever you're doing and whoever you're doing it with. Maybe you're doing some writing. I really wish you a happy and a very peaceful time. And as always, if you want to talk, then you know where I am. Please remember to be where you are in the journey. You don't need to know it all, and you definitely don't have to do it all. Take care, stay safe, and do keep in touch. Bye for now.